Doing that Conan the Barbarian fucking like.
Come, I have never prayed to you.
Grant me revenge.
Dude, Paul's
And
reaching
if you do
enlightenment.
not, to hell with you.
Shut up. Paul's reaching enlightenment, dude. Look.
Whoa.
Nom nom jam lam glam bam sham.
Prepping for the show tonight.
Do you feel it, ladies and gentlemen? The power of heaven.
Gotta be holy.
Going to heaven. We're going to heaven.
Oh, you're holy as fuck, Paul.
Oh, let me know. Let me tell you about it, TJ. Mm-hmm. My conception of reality has been turned upside down by this episode, TJ. I was a non-believer.
Down, huh?
I was a non-believer.
Yeah.
Walking into this episode, and TJ, now I don't know what I believe anymore.
Wow.
Do you believe in heaven? Could there be a heaven?
Heaven is for real.
I don't know, Scotty. But what I do know is that I want this show to be a beacon to other people who used to be like me. Cynics, non-believers, skeptics all. To take a look. The heaping, festering mound of unverifiable bullshit. Open your eyes. It's available to you in religion. I've spent the last 2 days of my life immersed in the stinky, fetid donkey shit that is religion. And let me tell you, I can't wait to do this episode tonight.
Awesome.
I'm happy as a clam to be doing this episode tonight. I've got to say.
You like that?
How do you feel about this?
You like this calming, heavenly music?
It's beautiful.
How do you feel about this supernatural experience we're about to experience, TJ? I think we're about to get a little taste of heaven.
Wow.
The most divine. Look. All your life, you can be a piece of shit. All your life, you fucking take shit from people. Like, I take your shit all the time, TJ. Like, I had a fucking Tajivans with you, but you know what? The thought of heaven has stayed my fucking mighty tongue, dude.
Wow.
The
holy
ultimate
presence.
fucking reward, dude. The ultimate reward.
The ultimate reward.
A fucking lifetime of bullshit. We all struggle. We all suffer. There's death. There's tragedy. There's loss. There's pain.
But then,
at the end of it, there's something else. What could there be?
God will embrace you. He will bring you into his fold.
Well, not
and you will
necessarily
get-
God.
Whoa, TJ.
No, it's God, man.
You're taking too many steps, TJ.
No, God, dude.
Heaven is not a singular concept, and that's what we're covering tonight, TJ. I've spent the last 48 hours or more of my life, TJ, dedicated to one purpose and one purpose alone. Heaven. Finding as much hard data as I could about heaven.
Wow.
In all its many and varied concepts, so that I could bring it to you and we could decide what we think about it.
So people could learn about heaven. I mean, look, TJ, there's a lot of people out there, they've never even heard of heaven. They don't know what heaven is.
What?
They don't know what heaven is, TJ. Do you know what heaven is? Look, dude, you had this misconception
I
of
heard
heaven.
that, heaven is a place on earth.
Dude, you have this
Belinda
misconception,
Carlisle,
TJ, that heaven is just the pearly gates and that's it, man. Paul's going to fucking open your eyes. I've seen some of this research. He gave me a sneak peek, man.
Wow.
And I'll tell you what, dude, this is going to change the way you view heaven.
Is it?
It is.
Cool.
So there's a quote from a Christian scholar that makes me worry about heaven right from the get-go. It says that I can safely say on the authority of all that is revealed in the Word of God that any man or woman on this earth who is bored and turned off by worship is not ready for heaven. It's A.W. Tozier.
How come the options for an afterlife are so shitty by that comparison? Like, so your choice is you can go to hell and suffer eternal agony, or you can go to heaven and just spend all your time
suffer
worshiping.
eternal worship. Yeah.
Like, oh, you're so great, God. You're so wonderful. You're so
That's
awesome,
not a bad
Jesus.
option, though, T. That's not a bad option.
Like,
dude.
how come they fucking God and Jesus always need their dicks sucked?
Religion has a real problem on its hands that I was aware of before doing the research for this episode, but it was really clarified by researching this episode, which is they're trying to sell a destination. I mean, really, that's what they are. They're trying to sell something that comes after life that is an eternity of some kind of bliss of some kind, but they're really bad at describing it. Pull up that first picture, TJ. Give people an example of what I'm talking about.
Yeah, dude, Disney World. All right.
This is heaven, right?
Right, these are
that's where heaven
promotional
is.
shots from Disney World.
Right.
And we've all been to Disney World, right? We've all seen this stuff.
Yeah.
My mom's obsessed with it, so I've been multiple times.
Sure.
Our mom's been like 30 times.
I've been
well
to
aware.
Disneyland a few more times than I've been to Disney World.
Sure.
But, it's a pretty easy thing to describe to somebody something that goes on at Disneyland and to describe why you think somebody ought to go check it out. Everybody's got a favorite thing about Disney World.
I love me that Epcot ball.
I like the Epcot ball. I was not disappointed by seeing that. I saw that for my first time when we went together.
It's a cool structure.
I saw, I love the Pirates of the Caribbean and all its many and varied forms. I love, my favorite ride has always been Splash Mountain. I love Splash Mountain.
Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-doo.
And I can describe what that's like. And I'm sure all of you have your favorites at Disney. You could describe what it's like.
Of course.
Yeah.
You can give specifics on what to expect should you orient yourself towards going to Disney. But when it comes to heaven, man, unless I'm just a retard, which is totally possible
Sure.
and probable, there's really not a lot of hard data out there. But what data there is, I have compiled for you tonight on Deep Fat Fried. Let's dig into it, gentlemen. Fuck the precursors. Let's talk about heaven. And we got to start at the one that I think we're all probably just naturally most familiar with, the Christian heaven.
Also known as the best heaven.
I wanted to let you guys talk for a second about what you think the Christian heaven is like. What's your conception of the Christian heaven?
All right, so here's what I've gathered about Christian heaven from various people
Right.
who I've heard about heaven from throughout my life.
Sure.
So what I understand about heaven is, of course, there's the cliches of like the clouds and the pearly gates and St. Peter at the entrance trying to like figure out whether you're worthy of entrance into heaven or you got to go to hell. So there's like the judgment, I guess, where your life, he looks in the big book and
the
sees,
book of TJ's life.
what's bad and what's good. And then you go in and there's like people playing harps and the roads are paved with gold and everybody gets a mansion. And you're always in the glorious presence of God, and all your bad feelings and insecurities and all that stuff is gone, and you're just like the best possible version of yourself, and you just feel heavenly, wonderful bliss all the time.
That sounds pretty familiar.
And that's pretty much what I've gathered about
Do you have
it.
anything different in your conception of the Christian heaven, Scotty?
You know what I think of heaven too, TJ? You're living out a big part of it, dude. Chilling with the fucking angels.
You're right.
You're surrounded by these beautiful angels, dude. People are playing harps. It's just
Well, that is interesting that you bring up the angels, Scotty, because the angels were something that I wanted to look into, because there's a lot of specifics in the Bible about the angels. But I think that the way that people think about angels is very colored by popular culture. Because what I found were descriptions of horrible beasts. You see some of them kind of lovingly portrayed here, but you see the multiple wings.
Yeah.
These wings, see, these are seraphim here. This is a depiction of seraphim.
Right.
And they had multiple wings. They were also supposed to have multiple heads. One that was like a human head. One that was the head of an ox. One that was the head of a sheep. And one that was the head of a hawk. They had wings all over their body, which were in turn covered with eyes all over them.
Cool.
And they weren't allowed to show their feet or genitals, and so most of their wings were used to cover their body.
Didn't the angels like come down and like rape giants or something and create like a weird race of like monsters
Anunnaki.
and shit?
Yeah, people are
There's a
saying,
lot of weird shit about the angels in the Bible, but
Look.
they're just denizens of heaven.
you guys are fucking talking some serious shit about angels. Look, Paul, they might have looked weird, but when you're in heaven up there, dude, they're your buddy. You're fucking basking in the fucking purity of the Lord, dude. You're surrounded. I mean, like, look, even if they might look strange to a person on Earth, obviously they're angels. They're supernatural. They're
Sure.
beyond Earth.
Well, I figured we could just go straight to the source here, because the Apostle John, I don't know if you guys knew this, but he saw heaven.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He
Revelations,
experienced
right?
Heaven is for real.
In Revelations 4, he describes, and I'm going to read a little bit of the Bible to you guys here.
Cool.
Revelations 4. This is John describing seeing into heaven. Mm-hmm. After this I looked, and there before me was a door standing open in heaven. And the voice I had heard speaking to me like a trumpet said, "Come up here, and I will show you what must take place after this." At once I was in the Spirit, and there before me was a throne in heaven with someone sitting on it. And the one who sat there and had the appearance of jasper and ruby, a rainbow that shone like an emerald encircled the throne. Surrounding the throne were 24 other thrones, and seated on them were 24 elders. They were dressed in white and had crowns of gold on their heads. From the throne came flashes of lightning, rumblings and peals of thunder. In front of the throne 7 lamps were blazing. These are the 7 spirits of God. Also in front of the throne was what looked like a sea of glass, clear as crystal. In the center around the throne were 4 living creatures, and they were covered with eyes in front and back. These are seraphim. The first living creature was like a lion, the second was like an ox, the third had a face like a man, the fourth was like a flying eagle. Each of the 4 living creatures had 6 wings and was covered with eyes all around, even under its wings. Day and night they never stopped saying, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come."
Neato
Wow,
burrito.
dude.
So that's heaven. That's a very specific thing that goes on in heaven. So I want to just recap here briefly. There's a throne. There's a bunch of other thrones around it. Everybody on the
Awesome,
throne's
dude.
got a crown. There are beasts sitting on the lake of glass. And they never stop saying, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come." And then they just repeat it over and over again.
I mean, they're angels. Of course they're going to be praising God. It's great. It sounds wonderful. That sounds like the best possible version of heaven I can imagine.
That sounds like I'd be bored with it after about 10 seconds and want to go home.
Yeah, I
no
mean,
wonder
Paul,
no wonder this guy was
Paul,
counting
you're
the
thinking-
thrones and shit like
Right.
21,
No,
22,
no. You guys are
23,
thinking like it's like you
24.
on Earth, Paul. Look, Paul, you're gonna be there, and you're just giving such reverence and such happiness, such bliss. You're not gonna be like, "I'm bored after 10
Dude,
seconds."
it just kind of goes to the God as a total egomaniac thing, too. Because, like, I mean, I'm an egomaniac, and if you guys just decided, like, all right, on today's show, we're just going to praise TJ. TJ, you're awesome. TJ, you're great. TJ, you're awesome. TJ, you're great.
we do that all the time, anyways.
Right.
It'd be like, for like 10 minutes or something, I could probably be like, yeah, I'm fucking the hot shit in a champagne glass. But eventually, I'm be like, all right, shut the fuck up. I've heard it. I know.
I fucking
It's great.
suck, actually.
Come on.
So,
But God just wants like think about the fucking a being that wants for eternity for everyone to just spend all their time kissing his ass forever and ever and telling him how great he is.
Well, he created everything. He created heaven for you. Why wouldn't you?
yeah.
All he created was a place for him to be venerated. So this being is just floating around in the nothingness, and it's like, you know
okay.
what? I wish I had a bunch of sycophants to kiss my ass forever.
Well, if God hadn't created heaven to you, you'd just be dead. There would be nothing for you.
That's fine.
Yeah, you got a point.
What do you mean that's fine, TJ?
You got a point, Scotty.
What
You
about your,
non-believing
what about your
scum.
dead relatives, dude? What about everyone you're gonna fucking see? You're gonna chill with, TJ?
In
Dude, I
heaven.
want to see the fucking weird beings with wings all over them and eyes going,
No,
holy,
that
holy,
actually
holy, holy,
sounds-
holy, holy, holy.
That does sound kind of cool, but like there's a time limit on that shit. You know?
Right.
I want to see the one man-faced, one ox-faced, winged, 17-winged,
Yeah, you wanna check it out.
742-eyed monster going, "God is awesome, bro."
You got a bad back, right? You got back pain.
Well, actually, I've been pretty good lately.
Oh, you got leg pain. You've had pains before, right?
Right?
You did-
Yeah, sure.
I remember when I was
All human
aches and
beings
pains.
have
Yes.
pain. Yes.
In heaven, that's not going to exist, buddy. So it's not going to be like, oh man, my back's hurting from standing up. So
You know where else it's not going to exist? When I'm fucking dead
Yeah, that's true.
and I just don't have any feelings anymore.
Well, maybe, TJ, you need some more specifics on heaven. And luckily for us, the Bible has some odd specifics
odd
there
specifics.
you go.
on heaven.
Okay.
And you can go to the next picture, too, if you'd like. This is another conception
Cool.
of...
Now
this is
that's a fucking
a
angel right
seraphim.
there.
Yeah. So here's John again. And he carried me away to the spirit, in the spirit, to a mountain great and high, and showed me the holy city, Jerusalem. This is New Jerusalem. This is heaven on earth, coming down from the clouds.
Okay.
It shone with the glory of God, and its brilliance was like that of a very precious jewel, like a jasper, clear as crystal.
What the fuck is a jasper?
Go look one up. I don't know.
All right, I'm going to do it.
It had great high walls with 12 gates, and with 12 angels at the gates. On the gates were written the names of the 12 tribes of Israel. So one gate for every tribe of Israel. There were 3 gates on the east, 3 on the north, 3 on the south, 3 on the west. Okay, I'm starting to get a picture in my mind. The wall of the city had 12 foundations, and on them were the names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb.
So here's what jaspers look like, by the way.
Okay.
Just so you know.
Multicolored gems, I guess.
Yeah, they're just like rocks.
So
They're kind of cool looking.
that doesn't really give me a very narrow, like...
Yeah, there's like multiple colors of them and shit. So
Right. Who knows?
You know.
The angel who talked with me had a measuring rod of gold to measure the city.
What?
Whoa.
Yes.
Was he? Wait. So was it long enough to measure the whole city in
Well-
one go, or was he like?
It must have been a long rod. Its gates and walls. The city was laid out like a square, as long as it was wide. He measured the city with the rod and found it to be 12,000 stadia. That's 1,400 miles.
Okay.
That's a
length.
big fucking city.
And as wide and high as it is long. So it's basically a cube that descends out of the sky. That is 1,400 miles on a side with 12 gates.
Wow.
The angel measured the wall using human measurement, and it was 144 cubits. That's 200 feet thick. So the walls of this place are 200 feet thick.
Wow, Trump
Whoa.
would be coming in his fucking pants right now.
The wall was made
The
of
wall
jasper.
just got a little thicker. Oh!
So the walls were made of jasper, which TJ showed us earlier. So the walls are all made of jasper. The city of pure gold.
Sounds like it hurt your eyes.
And the gold was as pure as glass.
Dude, Trump would love this city, dude.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe the
This
Christians
is the
are
most
onto
beautiful
something.
city ever.
Because it kind of seems like we saw Trump's house. It basically like everything that could be gold was. So this sounds like
Is Trump Jesus?
maybe
dude?
Trump is God, dude. Because it seems like all the criteria are there. Wants constant praise, fragile ego.
Yeah.
Dude.
Builds a giant wall. Lives in a city made of gold.
Maybe Trump is the second coming of Christ, dude. And people look.
That makes
All
sense.
these liberals are just ignoring the obvious signs.
The Christians have been telling us for a while that he's the godliest president and stuff, and now I'm starting to see it.
So the 12 gates of this place are 12 giant pearls. Each one of them made from a single giant pearl.
Oh, okay.
Damn.
The streets of the city were of gold.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, I did not see a temple in the city because the Lord God Almighty and the Lamb are its temple. So apparently at the center of the city where normally you would expect a grand temple to be, that's where God and Jesus are.
Yeah, they just kind of sit around.
Right, they just chill there.
Yeah,
They're chilling at the middle of the city all
Why
the time.
wouldn't you?
Right, they're chilling.
just waiting for you to come to them and do some more worship.
Right.
You know?
On no day will its gate ever be shut, for there will be no night there. So there's no reason to even use the gates. It's open forever. The glory and honor of the nations will be brought into it. Nothing impure will ever enter it, nor will anyone who does what is shameful or deceitful, but only those whose names are written in the Lamb's book of life. So the few of us that get to go see this, that's the most specifics really that we get out of the Bible for what heaven looks like and what it's like to experience it.
And the best thing about Cartman Land is you can't come.
So I feel like I've got way less information to go on than I did after looking at a picture of Disneyland.
Yeah.
This is a cherub, so not necessarily a seraphim. This is a cherub who is very similar to a seraphim, but just one head and covered in wings, not allowed to show anything on it. Only uses 2 of the wings to actually fly, and the rest of them are basically to cover its body.
We updated the fuck out of these designs as time went on.
Yeah, but
Here's
a
seraph.
Yeah, this is a seraphim. I actually found that these designs were way more faithful to the description in the Bible.
No, that's what I'm saying is like
right.
we've updated the designs a lot from
Yes.
when they were depicted this way.
Well, yeah, when they were never depicted this way in classical paintings.
But
and
the
shit.
Bible describes them
Like
that
when
way.
you tell people a cherub, what they usually think of is a
little
fat little baby,
yeah.
like that looks like
Cupid.
Cupid, right?
Yeah.
Basically
That's
Cupid.
not what a cherub was. And a seraph, a lot of people associate that with the genuine, like, beautiful woman angel with the wings and the sword and shit.
See, heaven is way more metal
Yeah.
when you actually read the
But
Bible.
this is like these types of beings would be present with you in this giant cube city with God and Jesus at the center of it. I mean, I'm really trying to put myself in the mind of
so
somebody
it's like
who's there.
Disney World, but more like a nightmare.
Right. A really nightmarish, probably pretty boring Disney World. Because once again, remember the quote, if you're bored by the idea of worship, you're not ready for heaven.
Well, you're not then. That's why you guys you guys can't conceptualize this and understand this because you don't want to go there. I mean, of course, when you don't want to go somewhere, you're not ready. TJ, I mean, look, a city 1,400 miles long and wide The streets are made of gold.
Oh shit, they got a Ferris wheel, dude.
So this is the way that you see heaven portrayed, if it's portrayed at all in a lot of visual art. A very abstract heaven with the insinuation of something. This one looks like almost like it's Disney World off in the distance.
It does.
But, you know, it's always draped in the clouds and the beautiful light and the colors, and there's never really any specifics about what's going on in this crazy Gothic castle with a Ferris
Well, there's
wheel.
a Ferris wheel, so we know
Right.
people are riding the Ferris wheel.
Maybe.
That's a specific.
I mean, who knows? Maybe it's fallen to ruins because God doesn't allow you to have fun anymore there yet, you know?
God's like, the Ferris wheel
Yeah.
does not
don't
exemplify
know.
my glory enough.
Well, this doesn't follow with the Bible, so I'm totally against this depiction.
What about the next one? So here's some more classical art. This is, I think, Michelangelo.
There you see the harp, and there you see. I mean, like they changed the design of the angels pretty quick.
Well, if you look
from
at
the
this
Bible.
one, you'll see a lot of the principal figures. You see King Daniel. You can see Moses holding up one of the tablets. You can see.
Has he been holding that tablet the whole time?
Yeah, he's just chilling there holding the tablet.
Oh, he just
That's
never,
his thing.
He
up
never
there.
put it down.
Oh, you over on the left, you see Noah with his ark. You can see him over there chilling.
Yeah, he's just kind of building it up.
He's like, yeah, man, I'm just polishing my ark over here.
Wow, his ark's a lot smaller than the Bible described
You
it.
know, and this is really probably the most classical view. You can see the cherubs there in their
Cherubs and
in the way that people like to think of them.
angels and all the bullshit.
Dude,
But yeah, this is
imagine
probably
a
how
bed-
most people think of heaven.
Dude,
here.
a bed made of clouds. How can you guys not like that?
Oh yeah, just chilling in the clouds.
Wouldn't you just fall
Little
right
naked
through?
butt kids running around everywhere.
Dude,
Fucking
it's heaven, dude.
angels flying around.
Why do you keep applying what would happen in our reality to what would happen in heaven, TJ? I mean, obviously, heaven's going to be a totally different place.
Dude, is that woman on the right like about to hit that other bitch?
Kind of looks like it.
That doesn't look happy.
yeah, that looks like
Oh,
a.
no. She's like, look at
yeah,
the
let's
Lord.
get a closer look at
Look
that.
at the Lord.
Yeah, it looks like she's rearing back for the pimp slap or something.
I'm
That
gonna
is
go
not
check
what's
this out.
happening.
Yeah,
This is heaven.
get some. Look at her, bitch. You better get your hands off of my heaven flowers. We're about to whoop your ass. Whack. Yeah, that other chick is like looking like, bitch, these are mine.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, that's a fight.
It's about to, and that's one fat bitch too.
Yeah, that's a
I mean,
fight.
you have any idea how much fucking like fruit and shit you had to eat back then to get like that?
Yeah, especially in heaven.
That's what I'm saying.
How much heaven fruit do you got to eat to be big and fat?
I mean, and you would think that if you know, if you're better in heaven and all this, like once you get there, they'd be like they liposuction all that shit out, and you just like look good and stuff.
But, I mean, I think we can all agree that what this picture doesn't tell us a lot about is what the fuck is it actually like to be there. Whereas I can tell you what it's like to walk, or like once again, I can tell you what it's like to be in Disneyland. This is really all we have to go by. That weird description of heaven and all of these artistic representations of heaven are really the only taste we get. And that seems strange because it's the main lure of the Christian faith, right? It's the antithesis of hell. It's the other option. It's the good path through the game. But yet, I shit you not, man. I dug and I dug and I dug, and everything I found that was specific about heaven was bullshit. An example would be this fucking God is for real shit. We can look at a couple. I think I pulled a few more of these abstracts of heaven.
Yeah, that's the last one here.
You know what the strange thing is about heaven? It's almost like heaven is almost left so ambiguous that you can almost place any individual personal meaning that you would have onto that concept and then create your own construct of what it could be.
Yeah.
That's what I was talking about with Paul. Paul and me were talking about it a little earlier, and I was kind of like, when it comes to heaven and hell, like, people have a way more specific idea about what's bad in life. You know, like being tortured and suffering and pain and all that.
There's
like,
a
that's all
commonality
bad.
to that. We can all commonly agree that those
Right.
things are bad.
Even a masochistic person would have their limits with that shit.
But when it comes to what's good,
Yeah, there's a lot more. What is really, like people have different interests and different things they like, and different sources of pleasure. So you leave heaven vague enough that people can just kind of like. It's like the streets are gold and there's clouds and stuff, and then you get to mansion, and then you just think of like what's the template
It's
of all the best
a
stuff
lot of
you
religion,
would want.
If you talk to a lot of people that have religious beliefs, it's all personal Jesus, personal heaven, personal, because it's their perception of what the events are going to be like. They're going to be like, okay, so some people have a very liberal interpretation of Christianity where it's like everyone's just going to be included in heaven. It's going to be a big party and a big club, and everyone's going to get along. It's going to be great. And then obviously there's the fire and brimstone people where it's like, no, every bad person's going to hell. And we're going to lord over them and laugh at them. Ha ha, we're in heaven. Fuck you. You were wicked. This is your punishment. And we were right. So I mean, it's just like it just lends itself to that. It's like when you watch a movie and there's so many different interpretations of the movie. It's easier to leave it open to interpretation. It's like it's a grand city with God, and a lot of people they're gonna make that city. They're gonna create that city. They're gonna create whatever image of heaven they want.
Sure. This picture in particular, I spent a lot of time looking at because I think it's supposed to display like grandeur and splendor, but the perspective of it makes it look terrifying. Like heaven looks like a horrible topsy-turvy mishmash of chaos.
Like an MC Escher painting on crack.
Just like where people look like they're falling out of the building from different angles into a vortex that seems to lead to Jesus at its center. That doesn't seem appealing to me, but this is once again, a kind of a weird abstract vision of what we conceptualize the Christian heaven to look like, because there's really not a lot of particulars to go by.
It's like a Jesus maelstrom, dude.
I remember seeing a David Cross routine where he was reading a newspaper from some shithole southern town or whatever, and there was an article in the newspaper that's like, will there be cars in heaven or some shit like that?
Right.
And it was talking about how there's public transportation in heaven that's actually like driven by by angels.
Yeah, the angels are bus drivers.
Yeah,
in
like
heaven.
so that you're
Surface
eternal
with a smile.
fucking. Like if so you get on a bus driven by one of these fucking weird things.
Welcome to heaven. The next stop coming up.
You get on the bus, you see this fucking thing on a bus, and you got to get on a fucking stinky ass bus.
Why does there need to be a bus in heaven, dude? Come on.
Heaven's starting to sound pretty lame. But when it comes to specifics about heaven, almost all of them are modern. So our idea of the fucking harps and all of that shit, and everybody gets wings and everybody gets a halo, none of that's in the Bible. There are very few references to anything that would even be construed that way in the Bible. All of that is our modern interpretation through art like this, that we've come to kind of all agree that they're the pearly gates and this and that and the other thing. There are 12 fucking pearly gates. I mean, that's what the Bible says. So our conception that there's this big old man, St. Peter's waiting there for everybody at one big gate that everybody goes through.
I didn't realize it was supposed to literally be a giant pearl either.
Right.
I just thought it was like gates made of pearl.
There are 12 pearly actual made of pearl gates. Right.
Cool.
So anyway, and a lot of the very modern interpretations of what actually goes on in heaven come from charlatans like the people that made this book, Heaven is for Real. What they basically did was, I don't mean to spoil it, they coached their little boy who had a horrible medical problem into telling a fucking fantastical story about what he saw in heaven that was totally fucking fake.
Remember, didn't they actually come out with a movie of this?
They did indeed make a movie of this.
And shortly, I think it was maybe a couple years ago that came out. This is all made up.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, I think I pulled the for it. There's an article talking about how this little boy, when he got old enough, recanted this whole story.
We actually have a video about it if you want to watch the
Oh
video.
yeah. Let's check it out.
That's crazy. Over 3 million copies in print, dude. That's an insane.
Yep.
If you know anything about book sales, that's crazy.
There was a story about this I heard recently, because Chelsea went to go visit her very religious grandma, and she went over there, and her grandma was like talking about this book.
Yeah.
And Chelsea's like, that kid came out and said that was all made up and his parents made it up. And Chelsea's religious grandma's like, what? They should be killed.
They should be killed.
Damn.
Yes.
Oh my.
Lying about Jesus.
Dude, I will say I like that. That's like a metal thing, dude. It's like not even like they should be punished. Or I can't believe they lied. It's like kill them.
Kill them.
That's fucking crazy. But this kid basically walked back his whole story.
Anyway, here, let's take a quick look at the...
Kill them.
A matter of life and death. Oh, wait, no, that's not it. Amazing. This boy saw heaven during his near-death experience.
Oh, I'm sure he did.
In June of 2012, 7-year-old... Oh, my God, this goes fast.
Yeah.
During his time in heaven, he says he went to heaven, and now 2 years later, he's ready to tell the world what he saw in the afterlife.
When I was asleep at the hospital,
Can you pause
I felt
this thing,
myself
TJ?
floating up and up.
No, I don't want to pause it.
What they should have said was this, and it's very succinct, dude. They should have said, in June 2012, this kid's parents realized they could make a shit ton of money off it.
So this is actually a
personal
different
tragedy.
kid.
This is a different kid.
Oh, it's a
Okay.
different kid?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this isn't even heaven. This isn't even the heaven is for real.
No, this is a
kid.
different accounting of heaven.
This is a different heaven is for real kid.
Oh, so some scammers that weren't as successful. Okay, thank you.
I could see my body lying there, and then I floated to heaven.
Oh my God.
Why is this taken seriously?
Obviously
dude?
coached by his parents. I then
floated to heaven. Did you see a light?
Heaven is beautiful. There's so many colors, and the roads are made of silver.
What?
The roads are made
The
of
roads are not made of silver.
The roads are made of gold.
The roads are made of fucking gold. Are you calling fucking...
We had an apostle from the Bible
yeah.
tell us. Is
I
he
think
wrong?
I'd buy him before I buy you, kid. You fucking little lying
That's
scumbag.
that's at least ancient charlatanism.
Yeah, dude. And gold is more valuable than
Just
silver.
play a little more.
And the buildings are made of gold.
Oh,
Ah.
all right.
gold.
Well, hey.
You gotta hear a little more.
All right,
too.
I see the contrast, I guess.
Yeah, silver and gold.
Silver and gold.
Silver and gold.
As long as the buildings are made of gold, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Angels have beautiful white wings, and they're singing to you.
Yeah, they
What?
sing to you.
That's awesome.
All right, I
dude.
just want to remind everybody that according to the Bible, you know,
those are white wings.
Yeah.
I guess those
They're
are
beautiful
white
white
wings.
wings.
I guess they
I don't
are.
know what kind of song this thing would sing,
It
though.
doesn't, I don't think it's
A
singing
beautiful song about God.
You know, it's
holy, holy.
It's like Susan Boyle. It sings better than it looks, I guess. I don't know.
Maybe.
Holy, holy God, dude. It's what's singing.
Holy,
Wow, dude,
holy
reaching deep for
God.
the Susan Boyle meme. What is this, 2002, TJ?
Well, I was trying to think ugly person who sing good. Susan Boyle. I mean,
She is still the
The
poster
even her
woman
last
for
name
that.
Boyle. It's like you just think of a fucking giant blister,
Boyle.
dude.
So listen about Jesus.
okay, I'm
Oh,
gonna
cool. He chill with Jesus.
shut the fuck up and learn
Dude, he
about
chilled
Jesus.
with Jesus. I'm jealous. All right.
Learn
Sorry.
of Jesus.
I'm sorry. I'm a little jealous. You got to chill with Jesus.
And Jesus is there, and he's bench pressing really big weights.
Cool.
And
Whoa,
he grunts
Jesus
while
is
he loves
fucking
to wait.
ripped.
Yeah,
All right.
dude.
So I will reveal
He's
to you guys
benching.
now because we probably shouldn't
I
play
got
any
it.
more of this. This is a ruse.
I got it already.
Yeah, this is a ruse.
I got it with the bench press.
Yeah,
pressing thing.
as soon as that came out, I was like, oh, I see what somebody has done. And he goes on to, we'll probably get flagged for just what we've used of this, but I thought it was funny. But that's basically what you get from these fucking, I went to heaven accounts. They all have a template. There's always a light. They always see somebody that died or a pet or
Of
whatever. They always see Jesus.
Okay, so here's the actual heaven is for real kid.
Yes.
Admitting he's full of shit.
Yeah.
So this is the headline is Boy says he didn't go to heaven. Publisher says it will pull book.
Yeah.
Nearly 5 years after it hit bestseller list, a book that purported to be a 6-year-old boy's story of visiting angels in heaven after being injured in a bad car crash is being pulled from shelves.
Why?
The young man at the center of The Boy Who Came Back from Heaven. This is also not the same
You know
book.
what?
This is a different book.
I have a fucking solution, dude. I have
So,
a fucking solution.
this-
Move that book from the non-fiction section.
Heaven is
to
for
the-
real is not the same as The Boy Who
Oh,
Came
well,
Back
hey.
from Heaven.
Right.
All right, fair enough. But you know what? Just move it to the fiction section, dude. Why does the book really need to go away? Just say, no, look, I mean, it's where it should have been to begin with, but I mean, I'm fine with it being a work of fiction.
Yeah, dude. Mm-hmm. There's lots of works of fiction about
Yeah.
heaven. This is one of them.
So here's his statement. I did not die. I did not go to heaven. I said I went to heaven because I thought it would get me attention. When I made the claims that I did, I had never read the Bible. People have profited from lies and continue to. They should read the Bible, which is enough. The Bible is the only source of truth. Anything written by man cannot be infallible.
Including the Bible, which was written by men. But whatever.
So I would
So
go
he's
a step further.
Yes.
But, you know.
But I agree with 90% of the statement. So, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah.
Oops.
Well,
Jumped the gun a
that's
little.
that's basically all I have on Christianity. I kind of consider these I came back from heaven stories bullshit because I couldn't find really any analogs in the Bible. There was a crazy country music song that I found that implied that
holes
suffering
in
exists.
the floor
Yeah.
of heaven.
Thought we could listen to maybe one verse of it. It's a really old one, and it was on YouTube.
It's probably fine.
It's probably okay.
Steve Warner, holes in the floor of heaven.
Ain't no such thing.
One day shy of 8 years old, when Grandma passed away.
Your grandma was only 8?
I think he was.
I
eight.
understand.
Yeah.
I'm just-
That's a real young grandma.
I know.
Weird
I
family.
was a broken-hearted little boy, blowing out that birthday cake.
Oh man.
You're supposed to blow out the candles
Yeah,
on
you're
the
supposed to-
cake.
but
You're not
the
supposed
candles-
to blow out the entire
But his
cake.
grandma was dead. He was sad.
Candles
true.
don't soft rhyme with away though. We can all, identify with that. Everybody's, had a rainy day that was a sad day for them, and they just kind of sat alone and cried.
It's not sad, though. You want to know why? Because, look, Mama smiled.
Yeah.
Bathtub?
Every second of every day.
Weird.
Grandma sees what you do under your blanket.
Weird.
Stop it.
'Cause there's holes in the floor of heaven,
Wow, heaven is shoddily built apparently, too.
and her tears are pouring down. That's
Wait, so she's in heaven,
She's crying.
and there's
Weeping.
holes in the floor,
Yeah.
and she's just weeping?
She's weeping so
So
that
you're in
because
this-
she wants
Oh,
to be there.
shit, dude. She went to hell.
This is a super popular Christian song. It's played at a lot of churches.
So you're in a ramshackle place full of holes, and you're weeping
and she's
openly.
weeping, dude. Oh, dude. They're just trying to comfort the kid. His grandma's actually in hell, dude. That's clearly what's going on.
And her grandma's wishing she could be back on Earth? Like, that
That's
doesn't
what I'm
sound like
saying.
heaven.
She's in hell, dude.
It's a strange concept of heaven, but this is an insanely popular song. Weird. So that's probably
creepy as fuck.
Yeah.
She worshiping at the feet of God. Why is she wasting her time watching over this fucking
She's looking through the
8-year-old?
floors in heaven, wishing she was back on Earth again. Sounds like
I'd
a great
want to
paradise.
You know, if I was living in a place with a bunch of holes all over the floor, I'd be crying too.
You know what, dude? I want to go to like a paradise island somewhere and to just look at pictures of the shitty town I grew up in and cry over them. That sounds like a great vacation.
Man, it sucks being in this paradise, quote unquote.
Look at all my living relatives that are in heaven with me. Shouldn't
So
you be
that's
like-
all I have about heaven from the Christian perspective, guys. Unless you have anything else to add
I
before
don't.
we move.
I told
along.
you everything I knew about heaven at the beginning.
You can
and
see
most of
kind
it
of what
was
I'm going
wrong.
for here. I'm going for the hard facts. What do we know that comes out of these holy books that tells us about these places?
Maybe
Yeah.
look, Paul. Maybe heaven just can't be understood or known, dude. You know, you're trying with your human mind to perceive something that's just beyond any human mind.
Let's talk a little bit about the Muslim heaven. I didn't know anything about the Muslim heaven before I started reading this. I have not
What
spent
about
a
the
whole.
virgins? You knew that.
Well, I knew that, but that's actually not. Well, we'll talk about it. That's disputed. The Muslim heaven is called Jannah, which literally translates to garden. And that's really how it's described and how it differs from the Christian description of heaven. Its vague descriptions are very pastoral, I guess, very based on like being in beautiful nature, right? Which you don't hear a lot of that. You didn't hear any of that from the Christian description. There was
There
no
was nothing about
trees.
trees or grass or
Right, it was all
flowers or
glass
that.
and metal and precious stones and right. And the Muslim heaven is very, like I said, it's very outdoorsy.
Right.
So Jannah, paradise or heaven, is called by 8 names. I'm going to try and stumble my way through these, but I think they're interesting. Jannatu al-Khuld, Darul as-Salam, Darul al-Qarar, Jannatu al-Adn, Jannatu al-Malwa, Jannatu al-Naim, and Jannatu al-Firdaus. It's the Arabic word for garden. They have been translated into English as paradise, a garden on high, a home that will last, garden of eternity, garden of everlasting bliss, gardens of delight, home of peace, and home of the righteous.
Cool.
So the Prophet Muhammad is quoted as saying that everyone will see God on the day of resurrection as easily as one can see the sun when there are no clouds. So that's how we'll know that heaven is coming, is that we'll all see God just as easily as we could look up in the
So
middle
you
of
just
the day.
look up in the
Dude,
sky
it sounds
and there
like
he is.
in Islam, dude. Like everyone gets their own fucking Garden of Eden, dude.
Well, it's not your own. You're there with other people.
Oh, well, even better, man.
Right. But this is all very similar to the Christian faith, but in keeping with that, there's no sickness, pain, sadness, or death. Unless you're talking about the holes in the floor of heaven that grandma cries through. I guess there's some sadness there, but whatever.
Well, she's in Christian
Right.
heaven.
None of that in Muslim heaven. No, there's no holes in the floor of the Garden of Jannah, okay? And here's the real big problem that we're going to run into with the Muslim heaven, and it's going to dog us all the way through this. The Prophet Muhammad said that there are things in paradise which no eye has seen, no ear has heard, and no human mind has thought of. So a lot of what the descriptions that we get, what I hear from what I was able to find from Muslim scholars and shit, is that they're supposed to be the closest representation that we can get that has a real world analog. So they'll say things like the rivers are flow like honey, or the rivers look like honey. And really, you're not supposed to think that it means that there's honey in the river.
So basically, it's just like it's beyond your comprehension, and there's no way you could even conceive of it.
Right.
But here's a very base description. So they're basically using the whole like beyond comprehension,
exactly,
trope,
which is absolutely
which
the same
H.P.
thing.
Lovecraft used that a lot in his writings and stuff like that. Like it's just like it's so far beyond human perception that you just can't even conceive of it.
Now you guys are trying to understand what's going on here.
But when it comes to selling it as a destination, it's really like what we're looking at on the screen here. The old mystery spot along the highway. Question mark. Come see it. Millions of people have come. What is it? Fun, fun, fun. It's like vague insinuations. It's a beautiful garden, but what's going on there? There's not a whole lot about that.
Something's happening.
And really, heaven is, very guilty of this same kind of marketing scheme, which works, obviously. People do pull into these. I've pulled into these before. Have you guys ever pulled into a mystery spot?
I've seen them and I've been tempted, but I've never actually.
Never actually
Never
pulled
actually
into
done it,
one?
dude.
Man, you got to do it. You got to give in. There's one near Santa Cruz that's actually pretty. It's the famous one. That's this one right here. The Santa
mystery
Cruz mystery.
Well, I'll go there.
Well, what's
spot.
there, Paul?
I can't tell you.
What's there?
If I told you, they would come and hunt me down. You have to go and see for yourself. TJ, you want to know the answer to what's there? See that red question mark in the middle of the screen, TJ? That's your answer.
There you go, dude. DFF.
Only those of us that have seen.
Dude, you know what? This will be our next meetup location.
Yeah, the mystery spot in Santa Cruz.
Dude.
The mystery spot is a gravitational anomaly located in the redwood forest just outside of Santa Cruz, California.
Shut up,
it is
TJ.
A circular area of effect around 150 feet or 46 meters in diameter.
Yes.
Within the mystery spot, you'll be stunned as your perception of the laws of physics and gravity are questioned.
You don't even know how they'll be questioned, TJ.
Whoa.
Your fucking whole
It's beyond
life
your
will be
comprehension.
flipped upside down, and everything you thought you knew would be turned inside out in front of you, TJ.
I want to go, dude.
But that's basically how they sell heaven, too. It's like, oh my God, you couldn't even imagine. It's
It's fun.
Now, this is very similar to the Christian heaven as well. Of course, the greatest reward in heaven is receiving Allah's pleasure and mercy. So,
Oh, Allah's pleasure.
yeah,
Whoa, man.
you got to receive Allah's pleasure, I guess. This honor is saved for those who believe in Allah and strive to live in accordance with his guidance. The Quran says, say, shall I give you glad tidings of things far better than those? For the righteous are gardens in nearness to their Lord, and the good pleasures of Allah. For in Allah's sight are all his servants. Allah
Once again,
will
a
say,
fucking egomaniac.
Yep. Allah will say, this is a day in which the truthful will profit from their truth. Theirs are gardens with rivers flowing beneath, their eternal home. Allah is well pleased with them, and they with Allah. That is the great salvation.
Cool.
So basically the same thing as heaven, if you kind of read it the right way. You're worshiping Allah. You're in the presence of Allah. That's supposed to be a big draw. But it's not really specific to me, because I don't know, like...
Let me ask you something. If you started in the desert...
You got to be super hyped to just chill with Allah.
What's really rare in a desert, TJ? Like an oasis, like a garden,
Yeah.
a jungle.
Like
It's
all
almost
these
like-
natural resources.
Yeah,
and
it's
shit.
almost like basically the best spot of where you live would be like the place you would consider to be a heaven. And it's
So,
almost
and
like,
Christianity, which arose from poverty, heaven is full of riches and gold.
Yeah.
So it's like almost like whatever they want for on earth, that's what's in
yeah,
heaven.
like that's the most
That's what they find.
fertile, lush lands available.
Now, there are some specifics. There's this concept called thrones of dignity
Whoa.
in the Muslim heaven or Jannah. They will recline with ease on thrones of dignity arranged in ranks.
Cool.
These are the people that have gone to
Dude, I
Jannah.
want a throne of dignity.
You're going to want it even more. Listen to this. This sounds pretty cool. They and their associates will be in groves of cool shade, reclining on thrones of dignity. every fruit, and they translate fruit as every enjoyment. So it's not just fruit. Every enjoyment will be there for them.
Yeah.
They shall have whatever they call for. So there will be people waiting on you. You could just be like, I want pussy, and pussy will come. I want grapes, and grapes will come. I want nipple tassels and a diamond dildo, and it will happen.
Wow.
This heaven's starting to sound pretty fucking good, dude.
In a lofty paradise, well, they shall never hear harmful speech nor falsehood. So no bullshit, no
What?
booty chatter in your ears, no fucking detractors, no nonsense. Nobody questions you. No harmful speech,
Dude,
no
where-
falsehood.
Where do we sign up for this, dude?
Therein will be a running spring. Therein will be thrones raised high and cups set at hand and cushions set in rows and rich carpets all spread out.
Cool. Sounds pretty hedonistic.
I'm starting
at
to
that
get
point.
sold on this Muslim heaven more and more.
Yeah, Muslim heaven, I gotta say, so far,
Way more
kicking
appealing.
the shit out of Christian
I mean,
heaven. I
any-
can see why people are blowing themselves
Any
up for this.
fruits that you want? I mean, come on, guys.
Now, the virgin thing is a thing that a lot of people quote, the 72 virgins. It's a pretty well-known thing, but that's actually from a different part of the... It's not even part of the Quran. It's a hadith, which is considered to be like a report about Muhammad after the fact, and it's actually the source of the Sunni-Shia schism. Which hadiths are accepted and which are considered to be heretical is actually the fundamental doctrinal source of the schism between Sunni Muslims and Shia Muslims, which is a cause of a lot of the unrest in the Muslim world. So you have to dip into those to get more of the specifics about the virgins and shit. The
Cool.
Quran does have a few things to say about virgins.
Oh, okay.
In Jannah, in them will be bashful virgins, neither man nor jinn will have touched before. Then which of the favors of your Lord will you deny? So that's something that's about Jannah there. The Quran also says, as for the righteous, they surely triumph. Their gardens and vineyards and high-bosomed or pointed-breasted virgins for companions. Truly,
Wait. Pointed?
it's what it. Well, that's what it comes to. High-bosomed or
was that-
pointed-breasted.
Was that the thing at the time?
I guess maybe
People want them pointy titties.
they like the pointy titties. I guess.
Okay.
They say truly an overflowing cup.
Damn.
Surely for the God-fearing awaits a place of security, gardens and vineyards and maidens with swelling or protruding bosoms.
Wow, dude.
So that's what the Quran has to say. But
So
it doesn't,
basically, the Quran is like, there's gonna be chicks with big
Yeah.
tits. When you get to heaven, there's gonna be some big, fat fucking titties.
right, but it never gives you like this very specific 72 versions.
Right. It never says you only get 70. It makes it sound like it sounds better in the Quran
Dude, it
because
sounds
it's
like-
like
it's
it
unlimited,
sounds like
dude.
they're just like as many as you want.
Unlimited.
So
Big tits.
to get the
everywhere.
specifics on virgins, you got to dip into the hadiths. And whether you believe them or not is up to you as a Muslim. I
The
don't
one
know.
that says I only get 72 is heretical.
So that number actually comes from, and I'm probably going to butcher this, it's Tirmidhi, Volume 2, states on page 138 that every man who enters paradise shall be given 72 huris, which is their name for beautiful virgins. No matter at what age he died, when he is admitted into paradise, he will become a 30-year-old and shall not age any further. A man in paradise shall be given virility equal to that of 100 men.
Cool.
So not only are you going to be 30 in
So
perpetuity,
You get to be 30 and you get to fucking have like super virility and shit.
right?
Your dick gets bigger. You could just fuck for
Yeah.
hours. Doesn't matter.
So the hadith, let's see. Hortzat Ali narrated what the apostle of Allah said. There is in paradise an open market wherein there will be no buying or selling, but will consist of men and women. When a man desires a beauty, at once he will have intercourse with them as desired. So it's just
Sold.
like it's like an open pussy market.
Best religion ever.
Yeah, it's a pussy
Where do I
market.
sign up? Where do I fucking? I'll strap the bomb on me now.
That same hadith, Tirmidhi Volume 2, pages 35 and 40 says, this is describing what you get, the
Okay.
huris. Because they're not like women.
Okay, so they're like just like weird
You
heaven
need to
sex doll.
just
things.
listen, yeah.
Okay.
A huri is a most beautiful young woman with a transparent body.
Okay, that's
So like a
little weird.
goo girl, if you've ever seen that kind
Whoa,
of porn.
dude.
Yeah.
Where you can like see your dick going in because she's like see-through. That's
Okay.
kind of hot.
I don't know.
That's kind of hot
I think
to
you're
me.
more into it than me, but
I kind of do have like a
I can
slight
adjust.
goo girl thing.
okay. Good to know.
The marrow of her bones is visible like the interior lines of pearls and rubies.
See, I'm not.
That's kind of I don't know. It's kind of hot.
You're getting into it.
I'm into it so far.
They talked me. I'm feeling like they talked me into it, and now they're talking me out of it.
Just listen. Just let me finish.
Okay.
She looks like red wine in a white glass. Okay? She's of white color and free from the routine physical disabilities of an ordinary woman, such as menstruation, menopause, urinal, and awful discharge. So they don't piss, they don't poop, they have a period, they don't fucking have any of that. A houri is a girl of tender age having large breasts which are round or pointed and not inclined to dangle. Houris dwell in palaces of splendid surroundings.
It's it's pretty clear Muhammad was a fucking titty man.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, clearly, dude.
Like, he's like, and their tits
well,
were fucking
on
huge.
point.
Tits have always been a sign of fertility in women, and that's the whole, Oedipal complex and shit is very strong impulse in men. So it's like, the whole idea of the fucking, the tit being the source of virility and fertility in a woman, clearly.
I think the reason you see a lot of these stories about, like, getting laid and all the virgins and all the pussy you're going to get is clearly just because, in the Islamic world, you can have multiple wives, you can have concubines. So, like, a lot of these guys obviously are just starving. Like, there's probably some guys with a ton of women and some guys with almost no women.
Well, it's interesting that you brought up wives, Scotty, because a question that we haven't answered and that I quite frankly can't answer for you, unfortunately, is what happens to women in heaven? We hear about all the pussy that men are going to be getting. What goes on with a woman? Well, what I found was bullshit. It's all open to interpretation. And the Islamic, scholars and imams and all of that, when they want to paint a good face on it, they usually say that a woman will be treated as well as her spouse in heaven. So they try and paint but there's really nothing specific about how a woman will be treated. There's nothing specific about whether or not she just becomes one of these endless harem for the men to fuck.
Isn't there like a
We know that the men change in age, so maybe the woman becomes like 18 in perpetuity and becomes one of these sex slaves.
Was there a fucking like dick mark? Are they like any man they want to get fucked?
None of that is mentioned in any of the hadiths or anywhere in the Quran.
That's a little sexist, man.
So
I'm sorry.
if you're a woman in Islam, and there's one more picture I wanted you to throw up there, TJ, that I thought was interesting. Oh, there's a couple more, I guess. This is another depiction of Jannah. Yeah.
Jannah.
And here's this is an Iranian ad that was run showing women the choice they have.
Yeah, you can either dress yourself like a beekeeper and go to some very vaguely defined heaven that doesn't even, there's not even, like, a description doesn't even exist to entice you towards
Exactly. As far as I was going to say, what's on the other side of that door with pigeons flying out of it for women, we have no fucking clue. I couldn't tell you. But I do know that you don't want to dress like the whore on the right and go to the fire door.
Because we know what's through that door. Bunch of fire.
I got to be honest. You know what looks like it's through that door, TJ? The most awesome 90s style goth metal nightclub that ever existed.
I know, right? I was just thinking, like, even if I was just faced with these two doors alone, I'd be like...
It sounds like a really dark
fire
synth
door,
remix
please.
of Dragula would be just pumping out of that fucking door.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're just like... So, I don't know how well this works on the women in Iran.
It ain't working on me, I can tell you that much.
But I found variations of this poster used all over the Islamic world.
Really?
This is a very, this actual, like, it'll be often different women, different types of hijabs, I guess, regionally.
Well, I think they need to figure out what they're actually going to give these women in heaven. I think one of these what are they called? Imams or whatever. They need to come up with some kind of, all right, so here's what you ladies get, you know? Do some market research, because right now it's so vague and shit that, like, what are they even going to? They're like, so there's going to be big tits anywhere? Do I get to the big tits? Or
Yeah,
what,
do I get big dicks? Or do
what
I
happens?
get,
Like, do I get what I want? Or, like, what's happening for me up there?
They don't get shit, dude. They don't get shit.
And that is basically all I have about Islam, guys. And I think that they have Christianity beat.
Yeah, I'm going to say so far as heavens go, Islam is better.
If you're a fucking
at least if you're a dude.
If you're
Right.
a dude, hands down, Islamic heaven is the place to be.
And the real stark difference that I found between the Islamic heaven and the Christian heaven is the Christian heaven is very specifically sexless. There is no mention of fucking or procreation, and that is clearly mentioned both in the Quran and its hadiths, whether you believe them or not, to be part of the official body. Because there are actually three sects of Islam. There's the Sunni, Shia, and their Quranists.
All right, so even set the sex aside, though.
Right.
Like, the Islamic heaven just sounds like a nicer place. Like you get
It's a garden. You
they
got a
talk about like a
throne.
comfy chair, and like instead of just being in the clouds with a bunch of gaudy bullshit,
Right.
You get to be in nature and its
A
splendor
reclining
and shit.
throne of dignity, dude.
And you could just have whatever you want, and there's servants, and
Oh,
there's.
chocolate ice cream. Oh,
mean, that
bring it
sounds-
to
Throne
me.
of dignity.
I mean, I feel like Islam has painted a way cooler, more motivating picture of heaven.
Dude, you could smoke as many blunts and cigarettes as
Right.
you want.
I could
dude.
sit there and be like, bring me the world's greatest joint and just like smoke it once. And it's like, I wouldn't even need it though. I'd already be in fucking paradise. So, I
Well,
don't know.
gentlemen, we have looked at 2 of the Abrahamic faiths so far, and I'm going to be honest with you, the third broke me. Let's talk briefly about the Jews.
The Jews.
Now, Paul, don't be a shamil.
I'm not going to be
Nope,
a Schlemiel
don't be
or
a
a
schmuck.
Schlamatzel, but I am going to tell you that the Jews, when it comes to spinning bullshit about their heaven, the Jews are the kings. I couldn't make hide nor hair of whether or not they even think heaven exists. So I pulled a 3-some-odd minute video of Rabbi Yaakov, what's his name, TJ?
Yaakov Cohen.
And he's going to, you guys listen to this, you tell me what you think.
Heaven and hell.
The concept of heaven and hell has been brought up many times in many of my classes. Do Jews believe in a heaven and a hell? Heaven and hell is a Christian concept. What does that have to do with Judaism?
Whoa!
Okay, that was this intro, and okay.
Hey guys, it's me.
Boom! Flaming torch.
That is yet
We got a torch of landscape. It's funny you show a bunch of fire and flames there because that's what you're going, Joe.
Right to hell.
For not accepting
Christ
Jesus
killer.
Christ as your savior.
Fuck that.
Christ killers.
They're Christ killers, TJ.
Christ killer.
another total misconception about Judaism.
Okay.
There is such a concept of heaven that we do call paradise. Most people might associate with that.
So there is a heaven.
Okay,
In
so the
Judaism.
video specifically says there's not.
Right.
But then there is. Okay,
Right.
gotcha.
And he just specifically said that there isn't a heaven. But then he goes on to say, yeah, we got a paradise that's basically heaven.
Okay.
And
This is why I stopped. This is why Rabbi Yaakov Cohen's talk is the only thing I pulled for the Jews, because I could not find a single cohesive fucking source for what heaven is like for the Jews. I mean, of course, the book of Revelation is part of the Torah. So I guess New Jerusalem is also the Jewish heaven. Although, if you ask Jews, it's different. It's not the same thing.
What kind of heaven is it? I don't know. It's like, dude, this is just like Judaism, man. It really is. No
It
one-
really, I mean, like, look, say what you want. Good,
In
bad,
heaven,
right or
there's
wrong.
good bargains everywhere.
Oh no, there won't be.
Oh, come on, TJ.
There's
Don't be-
good bargains everywhere
I
in
just imagine a
heaven.
bunch of old Jewish dudes in a room just can't agree on what the fuck heaven is. They're like, what is heaven?
You could buy a can of peas for a penny in heaven.
No,
It's,
there's no
it's
heaven.
wonderful.
There's a paradise. What can I say? Oh, well, what kind of paradise? It's like, oh god, dude, it's this. At the end of the day, it's like, how can you be sold on something that's like, look, the other ones were ambiguous, but this is like sounding super ambiguous.
Well, let's listen to a little bit more of what
All
he
right,
has to
let's
say
give
about
this
it.
guy a fair shake.
Sure.
Here.
Interestingly enough, the concept of the word hell is not even a word in Judaism.
So here's a
We
guy
actually
that's
have a
talking about
different-
heaven, and he's going to spend the next couple of minutes talking about hell, which I found so much in my research for this. I would find an article that was like, what's real about heaven, or what do we know about heaven? And 3/4 of it would be about hell.
Hell is a terrible
Yeah.
place where.
I guess it makes your episode easier, TJ.
Yep. Well,
Or-
you're giving
or
away my
harder.
episode.
Or hard. Well, we're going to tell people anyway, because
Yeah,
we
it's gonna
got
be
we
hell.
got to let people know.
It's gonna be hell.
concept. It's called Gehenna. And really what it is
hell.
it's a place where a soul that was tainted.
We don't have a heaven, but we have a heaven. We don't have a hell, but, we have a hell.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my god! All right, whatever.
It
It's
sounds
a
like,
nightmare.
It sounds like he's describing the process in which elves are created into orcs, dude. Not fucking. A
Well,
religious
the
thing.
way he describes this, like, you listen to a little bit. He says refinement over and over again, and what I was able to find is more like being burned and tortured and shit.
Or unrefined needs to get refined. You see, the idea, the concept really is that we're created.
Oh, so they have more of a concept of hell where, like,
You go there
you go there to get reformed.
and then you go to
and then you
paradise.
get to go to heaven.
Right. It's
But
like
you
more
gotta
like
do, you gotta
it's
do
kinda
your
like the
sentence in
Catholic
hell
purgatory.
first.
Catholic purgatory.
Yeah, so they
That
kind
idea.
of like tally up your. I mean, I guess they don't necessarily use the word sin, but basically they
Right.
tally up your sins and like, okay, you were this evil, so you got to go to hell for like, 12,000 years, but then you get to go to heaven or whatever.
Right. That was the basics of it. This guy covers the utter, like, fucking schizophrenia that is trying to... Like, and I'm not just trying to single out the Jews here. This was a Herculean feat to pull just this information for
mean,
the other two as
if
well.
you think
it's
about
all
it-
bathed in bullshit.
If you think about it chronologically, it makes sense. The Jews were the earliest, so of
Right.
course they have the most like, there's like a paradise or something. I don't know. And then the Christians try to describe it, but they improve on it drastically. So
Right.
like,
It's like a really nice city.
it's like a city, and there's gold and there's jewels, and they're telling this to a bunch of poor people.
Well, the Jews actually have that conception of heaven, too, because that, like
Oh,
I said,
okay.
that's Revelation. That's part of the Torah.
Well, Revelation's in the New Testament.
Is
Isn't
it?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Oh, okay, never mind. I'm fucking stupid.
You're dumb. You're fucking retarded.
So
a
you're right.
putz.
They don't have that
You're
same
a
conception.
shamil.
So then the Christians come along and they kind of turn in this land of riches and stuff, and then the Muslims are like, fuck that. It's like a beautiful garden, and there's like women with big tits. And that's obviously the best
Right.
one so far.
I mean,
so
yeah.
I have to agree with that, dude. It seems like the later versions got better and better. It's like people were as sold, like, Jewel would say that doesn't sound.
But
too good.
let's, you know what, guys? Let's rinse our palate, and you're gonna have to kill this music or find something better because this next one that we're covering doesn't have singing harpsichords or angels.
All right, goodbye, angelic
We need
music.
to get rid of the tribes of Abraham for a second, and we need to take a look at a man's religion. What about Valhalla, gentlemen?
Yeah.
Valhalla!
What do you guys know? And can we get the Jewish guy off the screen when we're talking about Valhalla? We gotta find something.
the
There
fuck?
we go.
Yeah,
What, you
dude.
don't think
There
there's
we
Jews in
go.
Valhalla?
Maybe there are, but I don't think that that guy is indicative of
Dude,
the
I'm
resident of Valhalla.
Dude, I'm fucking thinking like Conan the Barbarian types, fucking massive beards, fucking pointed fucking helmets with fucking spikes
Yes.
on and shit, swords, battle, fucking mead, mayhem, just everything, like just total debauchery, like a fucking
Yes, TJ.
like a fucking tavern all day long, 24/7, fighting and merriment, dude.
All right, just make sure that's not too loud.
What do you think of Valhalla, TJ?
Just trying to get this volume.
And you know the only way
set
I know
to the
this,
right
dude.
level.
According to popular culture, the only way to get into Valhalla is to die in combat, dude. Pussies don't
Yeah.
go to Valhalla.
That is true.
So all three of us, we ain't going to Valhalla. That's not reserved for us, dude.
I'm going. Fuck you.
You're going, TJ?
I'm going to fucking Valhalla,
well,
bitch.
let me tell you, when it comes to non-specific, this one takes the cake. Let me correct you guys already on one thing.
Oh, really?
It's not Valhalla. It's
Oh. What?
Valhalla. We've anglicized the whole Valhalla thing is an anglicized idea.
But Valhalla by any other name is still just
Right.
as sweet, right?
is what you would think, but it's not as specific as you might think. A lot of what we think, like this scene here, is very, very much informed by our popular idea of Valhalla.
right.
But it's also it's an older picture too, so you can see that there was maybe this kind of idea about Valhalla. But what do we know about Valhalla? Very little.
It just seems like a cool bar where you just drink and party forever.
As far as the entire Norse afterlife is concerned, most of what we know comes from Snorri Sturluson, who was a 13th century Christian Icelandic chieftain,
Damn.
politician, and poet who compiled, adapted, and modified various pre-Christian myths in order to write a book about traditional poetry. His prose Edda is essentially that, a textbook in poetics. So that's really all we have is this 13th century Christians compiling of old poems and kind of trying to put them forward as
Damn.
what was going on. In his writings, Snorri he writes a lot of things, some of which he backs up using older pagan poetry or skaldic poetry, and some of which he clearly doesn't and just makes up. He's especially fond of conflating elements that are only mentioned in passing in the myths. So he's not a real super reliable source, but there is a little bit that we do know about Valhalla from the old poems.
Okay.
And what we do know is this. Valhall, often anglicized Valhalla, is the great hall where Odin's choice of the slain reside until Ragnarok.
Right.
It's described in the Grimnismal, which is an epic poem, which is the source of most of our information about Valhalla and the other place that we'll talk about shortly. It's described as a golden hall thatched with shields and raftered with spears, where mail coats lay draped over the benches. The older sources in the lore say that the slain who stay there live a life of joyous feasting, making no mention of eternal combat. In fact, the only sort that associates Valhalla with constant fighting is a single verse in a
Good
poem.
luck with
I'm
that.
not even trying it.
Good luck.
A very, very Icelandic word. Before Snorri expounded upon that verse in his prose Edda, Valhalla was a place of rest and celebration for Odin's favorite veterans. They would feast upon the never-ending flesh of the boar Sehrimnir, and the mead of the goat Heyrun until
Hell
called
yeah.
upon to fight the great wolf Fenrir at Ragnarok. So
Okay, this idea of an afterlife.
yes.
It's not quite as good as the Muslim one. I think it's a little better than the Christian one for a few reasons. Because first of all, I mean, it's obvious if you're drinking and celebrating, like you're partying and stuff, but it's not like you get whatever you want. Like you got to eat boar and
right.
you got to drink mead,
Right.
So like.
But you got to think too. The people that had this religion, they had a simpler conception,
and
of
it was
things.
just like that's what we want.
right.
a very-
Drink, wine, women, song, good fellowship.
And then
good-
by the time you realize
the boar, this is actually
Yeah.
kind of cool. The boar, same Sehrimnir or whatever.
Yeah.
They carve it up every night and roast it. And then in the as they sleep in the night, all of the flesh comes back and it's ready to be carved again in the morning.
cool.
So, I mean, and the goat is the same way. There's a goat there whose udders are filled with mead, and it's just constant source of mead
We
that
think
comes
about
out
people
of the
living those
goat.
times.
But you know the
too.
cool thing too is by the time you get to the point where you're bored with that,
Right.
it's time for Ragnarok, and you don't have to deal with it.
So
anymore.
there is that hanging over you, too. You're expected to be a soldier in Ragnarok. But what if I told you, TJ, that your chances of getting to Valhalla, even if you were a brave warrior, is about 50-50, maybe even less?
What?
Oh, okay.
Because if you end up in Valhalla, you're second picked. Because a lot of people don't know this. You are second picked. Goddess Freya gets her first pick of the slain. And she presides over Volkvanger, or the field of the host or army field.
Oh, okay.
Volkvanger is the realm of the goddess Freya, who gets to choose half of her fallen warriors before Odin.
I think this is still Valhalla.
So she gets to take her pick first. So you got at least a 50-50 chance of being picked to go to Volkvanger.
So there's like different possibilities of
Yes.
the afterlife there.
And there's even more that are kind of like implied.
So
that
it's
I'll
almost
talk
like there's
about.
like a draft for the souls of dead warriors.
Yes.
And Valhalla doesn't even get first pick.
It's often portrayed as a meadow somewhat akin to the Summerlands. This is an image that likely came about when Snorri's vision of Valhalla grew in popularity and supplanted earlier ideas about Freya's Hall. In the skaldic poem Ragnar Skrapa, Freya, a goddess of war, is said to have presided over the never-ending battle of Hjarnavig, where the fallen soldiers are resurrected each day to resume the carnage. Thus, we begin to form an image of Folkvanger that is less like a peaceful meadow and more like a bloody battlefield that later sources would attribute to Valhalla.
So the person who... So you want to almost not be too
Yeah.
good of a warrior then.
Yeah, because if you're picked first by Freya, then you're going to the endless battlefield where every day you're killed in battle and resurrected the next day to fight again.
There was an episode of Star Trek like that, dude.
Yeah,
remember?
there was.
Yeah.
It was like Voyager, I think. Or no,
But-
it was DS9.
It was DS9. Like, it's really just interesting when you think about it. It's like first it's combat, and then it's like, oh man, fuck that. It's hanging out in a tavern, eating meat and drinking meat. Because in the fucking 13th century, eating meat was not as common as it is today. People would fucking get those things very rarely.
There was actually, and I could find so little actual information about this, but I found some very vague insinuations about a third place that you could possibly go to in Nordic myth, which was reserved, I think, for sailors who died at sea. You would be dragged down, and what happened to you, I don't know. There was no specifics about what happened to you in this kingdom underneath the sea. A lot of insinuations, but another possibility.
You got to fucking chill in Atlantis, dude.
Right.
Here's like the Greek...
Yes, this is the Greek tradition, Elysium, and another place that I didn't know much about, the Asphodel Meadows, and we'll talk a little bit about both of them. But I think a lot of people, when they think Elysium, this is, of course, from Gladiator, and he gives a very famous speech about, at the very beginning of that movie to his troops, that if they find themselves riding in fields of wheat with the sun in their face and the wind at their back, then there's no need to worry, for they're in Elysium and they're already dead. And he himself has some near-death experiences in the movie, if you'll remember, where he finds himself, very much like is pictured here, walking in endless fields, his family off in the distance. So this is a pretty popular concept of Elysium. Unfortunately, I found very little to support anything like this in reality, from what we know about the Greek concept of heaven. The ancient Greeks had their own version of the afterlife. So it was all in the underworld,
Right.
which was ruled over by Hades. And there, according to the works of Homer, Virgil, and Hesiod, bad people were punished and the good and the heroic are rewarded. So it's almost like a hell and a heaven.
Hell and heaven are the same
Right.
place. There's not this big delineation. It's just kind of, it's all one place where good people get their rewards, bad people get their punishments.
And there are some different ideas about Elysium depending on the poet that you're referencing, right?
Okay.
And I just pulled a couple. I pulled Homer's Elysium and Hesiod's Elysium. We'll start with Hesiod. Hesiod lived at about the same time as Homer, 8th or 7th century BCE. In his works and days, he wrote of the deserving dead that Father Zeus, the son of Kronos, gave a living and abode apart from men, and made them dwell at the ends of the earth. And they live untouched by sorrow in the islands of the blessed along the shore of deep swirling Okeanos, which is the ocean. Happy heroes for whom the grain-giving earth bears honey-sweet fruit, flourishing thrice a year, far from the deathless gods, and Kronos rules over them. For the father of men and gods released from him his bonds, and these last equally have honor and glory.
Sounds kind of gay.
So yeah, you don't get a whole lot of specifics there. There's no sadness. There's no sickness. That's very similar to the Christian concept
Yeah.
of heaven and the Muslim
And you get
concept
some
of heaven
fruit
and the
every
Jewish.
now and then.
And there's
three
fruit
times a year, you get some fruit.
It's kind of how you share heaven and hell, though. Like, that's not really a normal thing. It's usually like those are very delineated, and this kind of just seems more like they're on opposite ends.
Now, the reason that I pulled these two poets is that Homer has a much more exclusive idea of what the Elysian fields were reserved for. According to Homer in his epic poems written around the 8th century BCE, Elysian fields or Elysium refers to a beautiful meadow in the underworld where the favored of Zeus enjoy perfect happiness. This was the ultimate paradise a hero could achieve, basically an ancient Greek heaven. In the Odyssey, Homer tells us that in Elysium, men lead an easier life than anywhere else in the world. For in Elysium, there falls not rain, nor hail, nor snow, but Oceanus, the ocean, breathes ever a west wind that sings softly from the sea and gives fresh life to all men. So, but he was very specific that you had to be a badass hero to get to Elysium. So there, you know, Elysium under the first poet, who's, what was his fucking name again? Hesiod, was like if you were a good person, you went there and you found yourself in the field. Homer said, no, you had to be one of Zeus's chosen. It was you
Which
had to
makes
be
sense.
a hero of heroes, man.
Homer's known for the Iliad and the Odyssey, and the Odyssey, of course, is a story about heroes.
And some of the sources get even more specific. Some say that Elysium was reserved for those that were touched by the gods, or those that were part gods, or those that were themselves born of gods. So there was different levels of exclusivity, but really no specifics about Elysium. Very vague, very much like the picture we see here. What we can extrapolate is that it was a wheat of endless fields and maidens and whatever. It's very vague. Like I dug and I dug and I dug for specifics of what. Now I'll tell you what, the other parts of the underworld, those are documented to the painful fucking detail.
Right, I know.
Let me tell you what. Everywhere I looked, I found led to this. And so the Asphodel Meadows, this is a painting called Asphodel Meadows. It was a kind of a different part of the underworld, similarly kind of contested in terms of what it was. It's called the Garden of the Underworld. Some say that it was a place that maidens went, or virgins, or, it was just very vague as to who got to go to the Asphodel Meadows. The elect of Aphrodite, or the this or that. There's all kinds of different sources. It's another vague place that seems on the face of it mildly pleasing, but if you're looking for specifics, there just ain't none.
Dude, that dude's picking a flower. How bad could it be, Paul?
Yeah,
How bad could it be?
that is actually what the Asphodel Meadows is described as, is a field of asphodel flowers. So I guess if you like...
And everyone's naked, dude.
If you like flowers and naked people...
It's kind of like a nudist colony.
Yeah, then I guess this is your heaven.
Let's frolic through a field.
I'm still kind of on the Muslim tip myself.
Yeah, but this is okay. It's frolicking through a field.
But hey, the night is young. We still got more heavens to go through So let's talk a little bit about the ancient Egyptians. They did indeed have some conception of heaven, and it's one of the most interesting, honestly. It's one of the most well documented. They had a very precise path that the dead had to take.
Yeah, there was like a whole process.
And it's I'm not going to cover the whole thing here tonight, obviously, but it's laid out in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, as it's called now. Back in the day, it had another name. I think it was like the Book of Passing, or the Proper Path, or something like that. It had some. It was a less dark meaning. We call it the Book of the Dead, but it was a very specific thing that you had to do, and there were some cheats that you could do if you had a lot of money. If you had people that cared about you, or you were able to load yourself up.
So
because
you kind of buy yourself into heaven if you wanted, you know.
What you took with you in your burial ceremony when you were sealed in your tomb, you got to use in the afterlife in order to get where you were going, and after you got where you were going.
Whoa, dude. Okay.
So the soul would. I'm going to try and walk you through this. There's really a few parts of this. The soul would make its way to the Hall of Truth, also known as the Hall of Two Truths, in the company of Anubis, the guide of the dead, where it would wait in line with others for judgment by Osiris. There are different versions of what would happen next, but in the most popular story, the soul would make the negative confessions in front of Osiris, Thoth, Anubis, and the 42 judges. The negative confessions are a list of 42 sins against oneself, others, or the gods, which one could honestly say that one had never engaged in. So here are some of the confessions. I have not stolen. I have not stolen the property of a god. I have not said lies. I have not caused anyone to weep. I have not gossiped. I have not made anyone hungry, and many others. But the interpretation of those things is supposed to be broad. A lot of people say, like, it must have been impossible to get into heaven, because who goes through their life and doesn't make somebody cry? Right?
Right.
It doesn't mean necessarily I've made nobody weep. It means I've made nobody weep maliciously. I've never set out to hurt somebody and with the intent to just cause them misery and make them cry. Right? That's how you're supposed to interpret this.
Right.
So it's not as unattainable as one might think.
I heard there was something, I don't know if you pulled it here or whatever, but I remember there being a story about you had to, like, put all your sins on a scale, and if they weighed more than a feather, you know?
That's the weighing of the heart, which comes after the negative confessions.
Okay.
So after the negative confessions are made, Osiris, Anubis, and the 42 judges confer, and then the heart is weighed against a feather to see if you're telling the truth. If your heart is lighter than a feather, then it means that you have no weight, no sins on your heart, and you can go on, and if not, well, you're fucked. I can't really talk about where you go if you're not. But you move on to the next phase. Now, there's two phases of this. I like this phase. This one's kind of cool. If the soul passed through the weighing of the heart, it moved on a path which led to Lily Lake, also known as a lake of flowers. At the shore of Lily Lake, the soul would meet the divine ferryman, Hroth-Hef, who is like definitely a kindred spirit of mine. His name is translated as he who looks behind him. Hroth-Hef, who is a perpetually unpleasant ferryman. The soul would have to find some way to be courteous and kind to Hroth-Hef, no matter what unkind or cruel remarks he made, and show oneself worthy of continuing the journey. So basically, you get on the boat with Hroth-Hef, and he's just an asshole.
Yeah, and if you're mean back to him.
And if you, like, get angry with him and tell him, fuck yourself, Hroth-Hef, go jump, then you're done. You're done. He takes you right back. You fail. But you got to find a way to be kind to Hroth-Hef while he shits on you. And I think that if anything in Egyptian mythology sings to me, I think I'm Hroth-Hef, dude. I think that's my spirit animal in Egyptian.
No, I think you're the guy who talks shit to Hroth-Hef and gets thrown in the fucking river.
No, I'm Hroth-Hef, dude.
No.
I'm Hroth-Hef, TJ.
I don't think so.
I'm Hroth-Hef.
Okay.
If you pass that test, you're brought across the waters to the ancient Egyptian heaven, the Field of Reeds, which is very similar. I'll get to these guys. These are interesting here.
Okay, I'll stay on this.
The Field of Reeds is your eternal reward. And it's here one would find those loved ones who had passed on before, one's favorite dogs or cats. Dogs and cats and pets in general had a very special status in Egyptian society. They were treated in many ways way kinder than we treat pets now, although they were killed when their owner died and mummified with him so that they could go on to the afterlife. But that was done with love in mind. They didn't want their dog to be separated, so they'd kill him off and
Right.
Not something we do now, but it wasn't done maliciously to the dog.
it's kind of interesting as we go further back in time, because obviously this is the most ancient culture we've viewed yet, and it's like the field of reeds, and it's like you see how all it kind of just developed from there.
Yep. One's home would be there. Right down. Now, there's some differences, and we'll get to them. So your home is there. If you had a favorite tree, the tree was there. If you had a favorite stream that you visited, it's there. And you can enjoy an eternity of the life that you had left behind on Earth.
So it's a very personalized sort of
Yeah,
playlist kind of heaven.
But it includes work.
Oh.
What?
Yes. You get to live in perpetuity the happy life that you'd made for yourself on Earth. So here's the thing. The impetus was make your life on Earth as happy as possible. Because that's heaven. Heaven is you get to go back to that and live with all the people that you love and the dogs that you love forever. So it was the impetus for the people that lived in this culture to surround themselves with people that they loved and things that they cherished, and to build their house as strong and as beautiful, and to pick the spot well, and to have these wonderful experiences by streams and trees that they loved, because those things were coming with them to the afterlife.
Right.
Including the work that they did, which was also an impetus for the people that had social mobility in this ancient culture to seek out a job that they loved, whether it was being a mason or a doctor or whatever, to do something that you love, because in the afterlife you got to do it. Now, those dolls, TJ, that you pulled up, if you take another look at those guys, so since the afterlife was simply a continuation of the present one, people were expected to be called on to do their work for Osiris in the afterlife, just as they had labored for the king. This is a Shabti doll. And this doll, if taken with you after your soul got up out of its coffin, could be animated once one had passed into the field of reeds to assume one's responsibilities. The soul of the deceased could continue to enjoy a good book or go fishing while the Shabti took care of whatever work needed to be done. Just as one could not avoid one's obligations on Earth, though, the Shabti could not be used perpetually. A Shabti doll was good for only one use per year. People would commission as many Shabtis as they could afford in order to provide them with as much leisure.
What
in
a
the
great
afterlife.
fucking scam.
Right.
Whoever came up with these Shabtis was fucking awesome.
So these were sold to people and collected by people.
Think about that. Somebody heard about the Egyptian afterlife, realized it's bullshit, but it's like, what's the real problem with this afterlife? You still got to work.
Right.
But so they came up with this Shabti shit.
Right.
And sold it to people.
So basically, however many Shabti dolls you had,
so
represented
if you had
that many-
365,
right, then you could have a year's worth of leisure. You could basically live in perpetuity in leisure.
right?
Well, it's
So
kinda
the
like
more Shabti you got, the better off you are in heaven or
Right.
the field of reeds.
But they were expensive. They were
Of course
collector's
they were.
items. So, the rich could afford to commit. This is a box of Shabti dolls. And this was a very rich tomb.
And I mean, of course, like it kind
Some
of
people had one or two.
It makes more sense why they had such elaborate tombs for like the pharaohs and shit like that. Because I mean, of course, when you're looking at, hey, this is like your lead up to your real life, your eternal life, and like if you obviously live in splendor and have your servants and all your animals, like because that was common too. They would kill the servants of people who were like the pharaoh or whoever it is, these high-ranking nobles, and it was like. To me, that's like extraordinary in itself. But I mean, if you think about it, it's like, oh, well, at the end of this, we're all going to have this in our next better life.
Right.
If the pharaoh must have had, I don't even know what they had.
I mean, the pharaohs were buried with whole golden ships to sail on. They were buried with treasure, like Tutankhamun's tomb. If you've never looked at the stuff they pulled out of that, all of his pets were killed and mummified to be there with him. His wife was there with him. Literally all of the splendors that he would need in the afterlife to enjoy a life of leisure were there with him and more. If you're a king or a pharaoh in life, you're going to be that in the afterlife. Once again, your work and your job and your life goes with you.
So the idea,
there's a lot of pharaohs.
A lot of people
though.
say
Who's the ultimate pharaoh.
A lot of people say about wealth here on Earth, like you can't take it with you. Well, the Egyptians are like, "Fuck you."
Yeah.
Yes, I can.
Yes, we can take it with us,
And
we
we will.
do. I really liked the Shabti doll idea. The idea that you get vacation days. If you reanimate one of these dolls.
Vacation days in heaven, dude.
All right, yeah, man. I want to go fishing with you. I'll animate a Shabti. I'll send my Shabti to go work for Osiris, and I'll go fishing with you today. It's pretty fun. I don't know. I don't like the idea of having to work in heaven though, so it loses me there. What do you guys think about the Egyptian field of reeds?
I would say, it's not the worst.
Dude, any heaven that requires you to have a job or keep doing your job, like,
Yeah.
so the pharaoh has to be the pharaoh. He's supposed to make pronouncements and do shit, attend royal ceremonies. I mean, even that sucks, dude. I want heaven
What
to
if
be
you
bliss.
love your job though? What if you like really attained bliss and found like? What if you're like a craftsman? Then working with your hands is just your bliss,
Yeah.
That's not so bad.
Maybe for some people that's good though. I mean, I guess it's good they have a loophole, but I don't want the loophole. I want the fucking Islamic heaven stuff. I want the bliss on demand, the fruits on demand.
Sure. I tend to agree, although I do like this conception of heaven better than the Christian.
Make another video for Osiris, TJ. Osiris demands another video.
Oh, damn it.
Shit. Osiris needs to be entertained. Where's Flash Fried, TJ?
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk lastly, because I had to, I couldn't cover every fucking religion in one of our shows. We had to be judicious about what we covered a little bit.
Should have covered them all.
This is Buddhism.
Buddhism.
And really to talk about the Buddhist concept of heaven, or nirvana as it's commonly known, one has to talk about samsara, which is what we all exist in now. So according to the Buddhist tradition, the cycle of death and rebirth is the central focus of Buddhism. Although reincarnation is a topic that's often left out of Western Buddhism, it's an important Buddhist teaching. Samsara in Buddhism is the cycle of suffering and rebirth that we all experience. That cycle, at its most basic, consists of birth, living, death, and new life. The word is Sanskrit and roughly means wandering through. The Buddha taught that we wander through our cycles of life and death with ignorance. We don't see this cycle clearly and just continue to be subjected to the living, suffering, and rebirth brought about by samsara. Samsara, like nirvana, is caused by karma. Karma is the Buddhist law of cause and effect and teaches us that we reap what we sow. That's the basic idea of karma. So if you put negativity out in the world, you're going to get that, and you're going to stay locked in the cycle of samsara. If you put positivity out into the world and you separate yourself from all the earthly desires that you may have and separate yourself from your personal ego and attain a sense of oneness and charity with everything around you, then you're allowed to go to nirvana. But nirvana is not a heaven as it's been conceptualized in any of these other religions. And it would really, it's more like being given the option or being given the privilege to not exist anymore. So nirvana, directly translated, is burning out or extinguishing. So it's almost like if you attain that in life, you realize the cycle of samsara, you do everything you can to break that, your karma is good, then you will be allowed to achieve the state of nirvana, which is basically death and non-existence. You become one with everything. Your personal self ceases to exist, and you are no longer subject to the torturous cycle of death and rebirth that everybody else
Just get to
is.
become one with the universe, dude.
So basically, Buddhism is recognizing a fundamental truth that I think a lot of these other ones are not recognizing, which is that an eternity of anything is kind of shit. I guess
Right.
Ragnarok, the Ragnarok thing kind of acknowledges it too. Like, we're all going to go die in Ragnarok and then be totally dead.
Right.
Or whatever the fuck is supposed to happen. But Buddhism is just like, no, life is a bunch of bullshit, and it just goes on and on forever. And even when you think it's over, you got to be reborn and do it again.
Yeah.
So the only way out is to attain oneness with the universe and surrender your ego, and basically just kind of you as an entity and a perceptual thing is destroyed, and you become one with the cosmos, and you're just part of nature, and there's equilibrium, and it's kind of like almost what actually happens when you die.
So they
your consciousness ceases and your body is repurposed into other things for the universe. So
So it's described as a state of non-clinging, non-aversion, and clarity into the nature of reality. Commonly described as oneness with the universe. A ceasing of anything desirous in you, any earthly pleasure you've set aside. You're
kind of the opposite of the Islamic one.
Yeah. And really, at the end of it, it's just being free from that cycle of suffering. That is your reward. And I found myself, I think, relating to this one more than any of them, because I think it's probably the closest to the truth. I don't know necessarily that after I die in this life that I'll be reborn into another life unaware of what's going on. I don't know that I buy that, but it's, in terms of the idea of just non-existence being your reward, I can get behind that.
Paul's like, just end it all.
Yeah.
Free me from this mortal coil.
Oblivion.
Yeah, I can certainly get behind that. And that really is what I pulled as far as the specifics in religion. It was way harder than I thought it was going to be.
What about all these great films?
Well, yeah, I wanted us to talk a little bit about how heaven has been portrayed in popular films. And I pulled a few of my favorites here,
So
ones
this
that I
is
remember.
Ghost, dude.
And
Which I always think of Ghost as an 80s movie.
Yeah, but it's an early 90s
It's
movie.
not. It's 1990. So.
Yep.
I'm going
but
up to heaven now.
technically, I mean, it's close to the 80s enough.
It's
to
close
be-
enough.
It's definitely got
That
the
hair
80s
says
aesthetic.
it's the 80s,
Yeah,
so.
it took a while. Like a lot of people that didn't live through
90s
the 90s
didn't really kick in until
95.
late 91, 92.
I mean,
where-
95 is really when the aesthetic that people attribute to 90s really was
That's true.
in full effect.
But I'm saying the 90s.
There was some crazy shit in
I
the
feel like
90s.
the 90s kind of officially started
Dude,
when Nirvana came
I
out.
always think
Yes.
when I think of the '90s fashion, I think of this like ad they had for Mortal Kombat. And it's just the kid is dressed like it's like what the fuck's he wearing?
like a
That-
homeless person in like 18
Well, you know,
flannels.
like it was like
Ripped jeans.
It was like everything was like well, they had that look, but they also was like the fucking mist. You know, it's like the kid would have an orange hat and like red pants. You know.
Oh yeah,
that-
there was a brand of clothing, not to get too far afield, called Cross Colors in the early 90s.
Yeah.
That was basically, it looked like a bunch of shirts that were sewn together, but they were all different colored
yes,
shirts.
exactly.
Yeah. But anyway, this is the glimpse of heaven that you get in Ghost when his soul leaves, finally having saved his girlfriend from being murdered.
yeah.
And as you can see, what do you get from that? It's a vague, pearlescent,
There's
shimmering,
a vague, pearly, bright, colorful.
I think at one point in this scene, the kind of the darkness at the horizon is revealed to be people standing and waiting for him. So there's this vague insinuation, maybe his family and other people that he would want to meet are there. But this is what you get to see. This is heaven.
very informative.
Very informative. Let's take another. What's
This next one
here?
is from This Is the End, where Heaven is a performance by the Backstreet Boys.
Yes.
Oh, dude, there's a roller coaster, dude.
Now there's other shit going on
Yeah.
here. You know, like Scotty said, you can see some roller coasters, maybe some casinos back there. It looks like a party's going on. But yes, Backstreet Boys are there. He's summoned by one of the characters who's told that he can wish for anything he wants, and this is what he wishes for: is one last performance by the Backstreet Boys. But
Backstreet's back.
I don't think this one's fundamentally different from like kind of the popular conception of heaven as being
basically
like
just a modernization of the already existent notions of what heaven is.
right.
There's a lot of the stuff you see in a lot of the depictions, the clouds and the gold.
Dude, heaven
and
has a very like Greek and Roman vibe, dude. I see
Yeah,
like,
a lot
of
Roman-
pillars.
yeah,
A lot of
those
pillars and golden domes and shit going on. Looks like maybe like a
like the
mosque back
Pantheon,
there, maybe.
Yeah, or something.
Oh.
Maybe.
But it looks cool. Those roller coasters look badass. I'd ride them.
Then there was All Dogs Go to Heaven had a version of heaven.
It sure did.
I think this is actually from the sequel here, but
It
whatever.
is. There were two of these, and they both had this heaven representation.
Yeah,
in
it's
them.
just it's kind of a place in the clouds. This looks kind of weird vaginal thing going on.
I don't
know.
really know what we're supposed to get from it, and this is actually the dog heaven. So who knows?
Right. So human heaven might be different in
The,
some way. I don't know.
Who the fuck knows?
We actually have a video for the next one that we're showing. I don't think I've ever seen this. It's called A Matter of Life and Death.
We don't have to. I actually watched this movie as prep for this episode because it was roundly considered to be one of people's favorite portrayals of heaven. Heaven is portrayed in this movie as kind of a courtroom, and there's a long
Right.
escalator that goes to it that has this. You can show some of the scene. We don't have to watch all of it.
What the hell? It got real small. Okay. So why did this happen?
I don't know.
Okay.
What about him?
So this is really old.
1946.
1946.
Lincoln. It's hardly fair to drag him in.
So if you pause it, he's a fighter pilot,
Okay.
and he cheats death. He's supposed to have died, but he doesn't. And he is dragged before a court in heaven to make the case that he deserves to continue living his life, even though he has cheated death. He was fated to die in this accident or whatever, but he didn't. And he's being kind of taking up this escalator to heaven, and they're passing by statues of people who he's being asked, do you want this to be your representative? That was a statue of Lincoln there. So he's considering all these great minds from history as he rides up the escalator as to who he wants to be his advocate.
And then he ultimately ends up choosing Hitler, right?
Of course. But yeah, you can watch a little bit more of this.
I don't believe he'd be prejudiced. Plato. How would you like to be defended by Plato? Nobody knew more about reasoning than Plato. He was 81 when he died. He might be too old to think love important. Do you think so? Anyhow, Plato had very elementary ideas about love. Besides, didn't he quote Sophocles when somebody asked him if he was still able to appreciate a woman? What did the old boy say? Well, he said, I'm only too glad to be rid of all that. It's like escaping from bondage to a raving madman. These Greeks, cold as their marble. Now, if he had been French, Richelieu, for example, irresistible at he. How about Richelieu? I never liked him much since.
Soundtrack is fucking with my brain, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very old movie. It's actually a really interesting movie. It's got a cool, the stuff that's in real world is shot in Technicolor, and the stuff that is in heaven is in stark black and white. It's a cool movie. It's got it's definitely daring in the fact that it actually allows us to set foot in a visual representation of heaven and the
Do we get
gates.
anything of heaven besides this escalator?
No, this scene is one of the. I mean, the heaven. The parts of heaven that we get to see are a courtroom, so they're not very. This scene is what the movie is famous for.
Does he end up choosing a representative or whatever?
Yeah, at the end of this, but we don't have to. It's a very long. I just wanted to show a quick clip instead of a movie poster for this one because it was an interesting movie and I recommend it if you want to check it out.
Cool.
What's the next one we got?
The next one we have is this is
What Dreams May Come.
Yeah,
probably my favorite. I don't know if you guys have a favorite depiction of heaven in a movie, but this movie right here, I think is brilliant. It's like I don't even really believe in the concept of heaven, but this movie is fucking gorgeous, and it's sad, and I cried when I watched it the first time, and it's good, and I think everybody should see it. The basics of this movie are that this man dies in a car accident. His wife goes on living, and he goes on to experience the pleasures of heaven. But she eventually kills herself from grief and goes to hell. And he makes the choice to descend out of heaven through purgatory and into hell to save her and drag her back to heaven. It's a pretty awesome, epic movie. It's got this weird kind of impressionist painting look. I mean, this is a still from the film.
Right.
So dude, it's like an inverse of Drag Me to Hell. It's Drag Me to Heaven.
Yeah,
dude.
Yeah, really.
Drag me to heaven.
It's a great movie. It's beautiful to look at. Its portrayal of heaven is very much like the Elysian Fields or the Field of Reeds. It's beautiful flowers, or even the Muslim heaven, the garden, Jannah. It's endless gardens, beautiful beaches. His dog that he loved was there. It's. I
tend to favor the earthier heavens rather than the constructed ones. But.
Sure.
South Park. Now, there's obviously a scene in the South Park movie where Kennedy's flying up to heaven, and there's all these women with huge tits.
I
was thinking maybe he was going to a combination of heavens. You know?
I didn't want to. Obvious reasons, couldn't pull that. But I thought we could just. I really like this conception of heaven too, as being just an endless field of giant pillowy breasts, and that is really what South Park says. At least Kenny's heaven is.
Yeah, Kenny knows what's what. He's legit. Field of Dreams.
Now, this is disputed. A lot of people don't think that this is a depiction of heaven. I think that it is. It's have you seen Field of Dreams?
Yeah.
It's a strange movie where the supernatural and the natural intertwine pretty freely. But ultimately, for me, it's a movie about redemption and about people finding that redemption. So it's a movie about a baseball player who, not this guy isn't the baseball player, he just builds the field, but the one of the denizens that comes to the baseball field that he builds is a baseball player that was accused of cheating, that up until his very death he denied it, and he was denied the right to play baseball, and he can come here and play baseball again and nobody judges him. There's a father-son dynamic that happens, and everybody in the movie ultimately finds in this very simple act of playing this game in a very well-maintained field alone, find a sense of redemption, and I think that's, in line with what we've heard from other, heavens that we've discussed tonight.
TJ, you'd hate this movie, though.
I've seen it.
Oh, you have seen it?
Yeah.
You don't like this movie, TJ? What do you think about it?
I don't know. It's all right.
I think it's pretty good.
Well, it's got TJ's favorite actor in it, Ray Liotta.
Yeah.
This is actually a still from Heaven is for Real. The movie, the Disgraced movie that we talked about earlier.
Well, is that one disgraced? 'Cause
I'm pretty sure that it is. Maybe it isn't.
The story we found was about another Kate
Right.
Lion, so maybe this one hasn't been
Yeah,
revealed as a lie. But
maybe
whatever,
not.
it is a lie anyway. So,
But yeah, this is a scene from that movie.
so
Jesus.
I see, some angel. Is that Jesus? Okay,
Yeah, that's
So
Jesus.
heaven is a giant green screen and some smoke and fog machines.
Yeah, in a small church.
it looks like a half-ass Pink Floyd album cover or something.
One of the rejected Pink Floyd album covers.
All right, so I'm gonna give it to you guys here straight at the end of this. I'm gonna do it in turn. TJ, starting with you. You got 10 seconds to decide which heaven you going to.
Muslim.
Muslim, Scotty.
Oh, definitely Muslim, dude.
I'm going with the Buddhist heaven. I want to escape samsara. I want to get out. I want out. I'm choosing the Buddhist. There we go.
You're stuck forever.
Choosa da Buddha.
Yeah, let us know in the
stuck
comments
forever.
which heaven you choose, or if there's a heaven I didn't cover that you'd like to see. Because, like I said, there were so many
Or
of these. Obviously,
alternatively, you could just describe your concept of heaven.
that's true. Yeah, I'd like to read that too to see if you
So,
can
yeah.
infer anything I
Let
didn't
us-
from any of these
so
heavens.
question 1 for the people commenting. What heaven on our list today would you want to go to? Or
Yep.
you can tell us about one that we didn't cover.
Yep,
And secondly, what's your idea of heaven?
that's a good one. And stay tuned if you're a patron, and if you're not a patron, what the fuck are you doing for TJ's next episode, which I think we should reveal to the people.
Yes.
Is hell.
Which is going to be about hell. And
It's
also,
hell, yo.
also be sure to tune in on May 6th. Now, that's a normal show day, but on that particular day, we're going to be doing a not 24-hour show, thank God.
Oh, God.
We're going to be doing an 8-hour
8-hour
show
mega
as a
show.
thank you for all of our new patrons that joined last month. And it's going to be an 8-hour show starting at noon and ending at, of course,
Midnight.
8 p.m. And that's Central Time because that's where we live, so you got to figure out in your own time zone what that would be.
Yep.
But we look forward to seeing you all there as well. And tune in this Friday to see my episode about hell. It's going to be the companion piece.
You can't have heaven without hell.
It might be even more. It might be even longer than this one, which is going to be crazy.
I can imagine it would be. You're gonna. I don't envy you, TJ. You're
Right.
gonna have a mountain of bullshit.
Dude, at
to
first,
fucking
Paul,
chew
you
through.
complained, but now you can see why. You actually got the fucking better end
Now,
of the
Paul,
stick.
you said that your script for this episode, or not script necessarily, but the research guide that we put together for every episode,
Yeah.
is about 12 pages long, and you said you actually pared that down from like 20.
Yeah, I actually covered
surprised.
in detail as I could Judaism and Hinduism, and decided to cut those in favor of a more succinct episode
And I'm
that
gonna have to
covered
get.
broader.
I'm gonna have to get on my research because I'm going to see fucking Infinity whatever War Endgame at fucking Thursday too. So
yeah, you better you got to
on,
get out
dude.
ahead of the game. You
So
got
I
a
better-
fucking mountain ahead of you, dude.
I better start tonight. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Let us know in the comments below and answer those questions we asked you earlier. And don't forget to tune in on Friday to see the episode on hell. And don't forget to tune in on May 6th to see the 8-hour episode.
Round of applause. All right, that's enough of that.
Enough of that
Enough
bullshit.
of that shit.